realfaith.org.au.
We saw an advertisement for a reconciliation meeting, and so we were interested, and we went along to this meeting. And when we walked in, we were surprised that it was being led by an Anglican priest, and he prophesied over us before we had a chance to sit down. And he said, "You don't even need to do anything about reconciliation. You're a living, walking reconciliation."
Welcome to Real Faith, conversations about the impact faith has on our lives and the challenges we go through, helping us today and giving us hope for tomorrow. That's real people, real life and real faith with Eric Scatterbo.
Author Barbara Miller is married to Norman, an Aboriginal Australian, and she says that when they married, her mother refused to come to the wedding. Today we'll hear Barbara's story and why she has had a keen interest in working for Aboriginal advancement since 1970. Also, we'll find out her mother's reaction when she and Norman came to visit her for the very first time. All that and more is coming up today as Barbara shares her story. Barbara Miller, welcome to the program.
Wonderful, Eric. Thank you so much.
Glad to have you with us, and you're coming to us today from Cairns in northern Queensland, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you so much for joining us. And before we get to that moment when your mother met Norman for the very first time, let's find out a little bit about your background and what led up to that occasion. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Ipswich, which is near Brisbane in Queensland, and grew up in a working class family and not a Christian family. But for some reason, I really wanted to go to church.
Oh, just on your own?
On my own. So as a primary school student, I would walk quite a long way to church on a Sunday and walk back home again. So my interest was there from an early age.
Oh, wow.
Even though my family didn't like me doing it.
Was that right? But you stuck to your guns and went anyway?
Yes, I did, yes.
Well, that tells us a little bit about your personality from a young age.
Yes, I remember one day walking home from school and I was reading the Bible walking home.
Wow.
And the Presbyterian minister who used to do the religious education at school, he stopped me and he said, "You know, you probably need to be a bit careful reading that while you're walking home." And I said, "Oh, look, while you're at it, can you tell me what the sin is against the Holy Ghost, because that one can't be forgiven?" And he looked at me quite amazed, but he answered my question. I can't remember what he said, but it relieved my mind at the time.
Wow. So from a very young age, you had a general curiosity of the ways of the Lord and the Bible.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. And how old were you when all that happened?
I can't remember exactly. I might have been about 11.
Okay. And so how long did you go to church? How many years?
Oh, I continued going through to church until I went to university. And while I was at university, that's when I actually gave my heart to the Lord, because I got involved with an evangelical union group at the university, and they talked about you actually have to give your heart to the Lord. So I did.
And then at university, you were on fire for the Lord, I guess you could say, starting to evangelize at the school?
Yes. So there were a group of rads, we called them. They were Marxists, and they had a bookstall outside the Refec or eatery, which was a great gathering place for students. So with two friends of mine, I set up a Christian bookstall on the other side of the doorway, and bought some Christian books, which we resold for the same price. But also I had a lot of Gideon's Bibles that I would give away, and I actually covered them with jazzy covers. And there was a lot of interest from the students, and it was a great opportunity to evangelize.
Now, did you get into some interesting conversations with the Marxists?
Oh, absolutely. As you might imagine, because we were both touting for people to as they went in and out of the refect to eat, we were there sort of trying to gather their interest in our positions. So, yes.
Some interesting discussions there. Okay, at this point, let's switch over to your future husband, Norman. How did he become a Christian?
Now, his story is very different from mine because he grew up in a very Christian household. So he was going to Sunday school when he was young and being taught by his mother and his aunties. And his mother is just such an awesome woman of prayer. And so all the children gave their heart to the Lord and are part of our church today.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yes. So he had a wonderful grounding.
And then how did the two of you meet?
Well, the funny thing about it is that I was friends with his parents and I was invited to his 21st birthday party.
Oh.
And met him there and wasn't sort of interested at that stage. But, yeah, we met again later on and things started from there.
Okay. And as we heard in the introduction, he's an Aboriginal Australian. And were there any difficulties in the relationship because of those differences?
Okay, so with my husband's family, they've been very welcoming. They've been absolutely awesome. I often say that with my husband's mother, it's like a Naomi Ruth because she's so wonderful. We're so close. With my own mother, however, it was a different story. She refused to come to our wedding because of him being Aboriginal. And
now, was she like racist? I mean, had you always known that was a possibility that she might reject him, or what was the background?
I knew that there was a bit of a track record there, yes.
Okay, so that wasn't a surprise when she didn't want to come to the wedding?
Not really. My father came, though. He thought he'd better do his duty and come along, and so did my brother, my only brother. I have no sisters. So they just actually were won over by coming to the wedding.
Oh, the actual wedding helped win them over?
Yes, it helped with my father and my brother.
What do you think it was about the wedding that helped win them over?
Just because Norman's family was so friendly and welcoming. And so I think it always helps to meet real people of the group that you have a bad opinion of. It actually helps to meet members of that group and find out, wow, these are really wonderful people after all.
Yeah, that I should probably open my heart to them.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, so with regard to my mother, Norman was quite hurt about it. So he had to deal with his own feelings there. And so he spent a lot of time in prayer about it to get his heart right.
Yeah, he could very easily have responded, hey, if you don't like me, forget you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I mean, he could have been angry and bitter about it.
He could have been.
But instead, he responded in a different way.
That's right. And, he's got that kind of character, which I really appreciate in him. And so he asked the Lord to deal with his heart, and the Lord did, and heal his heart. And so about a year later, we travelled to Ipswich, which is over 1,000 k's away from Cairns.
Did she know you were coming?
No.
Oh, no. So you're just going to surprise her?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So we got to the door and Mum opened it and Norman immediately gave her a hug and said, Mum, I love you.
Wow.
And he meant it.
Yeah.
And so what could she do? She let us in. So that was the start. And then later on, she decided to visit us in Cairns.
Oh, so the relationship started from there. She didn't stay cold toward him?
She realised that she had to come to terms with it, I think. And I think he touched her heart. Really.
Won her over, huh? With his loving, Christ-like manner.
Yes, and of course, it was an answer to prayer as well. And so Mum came and visited us and stayed with us. And Norman put fresh flowers in her room every day.
Oh, wow.
Waited on her hand and foot. He was absolutely charming, and he meant it. It wasn't an act. And so by the time it came for Mum to leave, she said quite sheepishly, "Can I take him with me?" Because she'd never been treated that way by her own husband, and she just
Wow.
lapped it up, basically.
Talk about winning her over. He really did a great job.
Big time.
I mean, that tells you a lot about his personality. Has he always had a soft heart and loving heart?
I think so. I think so. And, genuine commitment to the Lord, coming from a very loving family, all of that helps.
Our guest today is author Barbara Miller, who's sharing with us her and her husband Norman's story as a couple. As we've been hearing, Norman is an Aboriginal Australian, and he successfully brought about reconciliation with his mother-in-law. Next, we'll hear more about their life journeys and how reconciliation continues to be a theme throughout their lives. All that and more is coming up when we return, right here on Real Faith.
The Word for Today is Australia's most widely read daily devotional,
designed to give you practical teaching to keep you focused on your relationship with Jesus.
Read it online or subscribe to the free printed edition
At thewordfortoday.com.au.
You're listening to Real Faith, conversations with real people about how God works in their lives. If you want to know more about integrating faith into your life, our website is realfaith.org.au. Just go to the website and you'll find helpful articles about the impact faith can have on your life. Once again, that's realfaith.org.au.
Welcome back. I'm Eric Scatabo, and today I'm chatting with Barbara Miller, who's sharing with us her and her husband Norman's story. As we've been hearing, Norman is an Aboriginal Australian, and they both have a heart for bringing about reconciliation in various ways. Now here's more of our conversation. Okay, so now you've been married to Norman for over 30 years. Let's go back to 1995 when you went to Brisbane. Why did you go there?
Well, basically, we went there because we had been at the Cairns Christian Centre on the ministry team there, and I was a psychologist and I was doing some counselling for them voluntarily. My husband was youth leader. We did our Bible college there. And so then what happened is Teen Challenge asked if I would go to Brisbane and work for them.
Okay.
And it was a very hard decision, but we felt that the Lord had said yes, so we went. And so while we were there, basically what happened was that we saw an advertisement for a reconciliation meeting, and it happened to be a uniting church in South Brisbane, and we were very interested in that.
So what does it mean, a reconciliation meeting?
Well, for us, reconciliation means where there has been people who've been hurt in their relationships and need to reconcile. That's what reconciliation is all about. And it can be between groups, not just between individuals. And so we were interested, and we went along to this meeting. And when we walked in, we were surprised that it was being led by an Anglican priest, and he prophesied over us before we had a chance to sit down.
Oh, wow.
And he said, you don't even need to do anything about reconciliation. You're a living, walking reconciliation.
Just you two as a couple.
Yeah, so we sat down and listened to the meeting, which was quite interesting. And then afterwards, he had a private chat with us, and he said, what you need to be working on, if you're interested in racial reconciliation, you need to look at the original division between Jew and Gentile and do some work in reconciling or healing that, because that's the original division that Satan used as a platform to be able to create the various other divisions in the world. And, that might not make sense to some other people, but it really spoke to us. And we thought, well, we don't know very many Jewish people.
Mhm.
So we asked the Lord for a download of his love for the Jewish people. And when we prayed that, he answered us both instantly. So that was the start of another ministry for us of reaching out to Jewish people, which we have done since then.
So not only racial reconciliation, but also the division between Jew and Gentile.
Yes. So we do work on other areas of reconciliation, male, female, rich, poor, old, young, reconciliation between nations and ethnic groups. So it is a fairly wide-reaching concept, but we have put a lot into the Jewish-Gentile area of reconciliation.
And what have you done?
Well, it's quite a story. One of the things we did was regarding Australia's position at Evian during the Holocaust, or just really before it got really bad, when the nations got together to deal with the crisis of Jewish refugees. Most of the nations turned their back or took very few. Australia was one who said, we don't have a racial problem and we're not desirous of importing one. So when we saw that on our first visit to Israel at Yad Vashem, a big plaque on the wall on Australia's position, we felt that we needed to apologise for that, which we did starting in 2002. We did that for a number of Jewish groups in Australia, and we've done that a number of times at Yad Vashem itself. Firstly, with when Norman gave them a painting.
Your husband, Norman, is a painter, we should say.
Yes, he's an artist, and he did this beautiful painting of Beersheba or Beersheba, where the Australian light horse had a lot to do with winning a battle there that opened the way for the ending of 400 years of Turkish rule of the land of Palestine as it became known, and today known as Israel. So he gave that painting as a gift when we made the apology in January 2004. And since then, we've done that again many years later by providing a beautiful plaque with the apology on it, which we had prepared in Australia, and we hoped it might sit beside the record in Yad Vashem, but it actually hasn't been put beside it, so I don't know where it's located. But
somewhere in Israel.
Yes. Oh, yes, it'll be in Yad Vashem somewhere. But, you know, that was really a 10-year campaign for us to actually get the Australian government to apologise for Australia's position at Evian. And Kevin Rudd did that in December 2010, and we were there for it.
Okay. And you've been to Israel several times. You lead groups there, is that right?
Yes, we've been at least 10 times now. And basically for about 7 years, from 2005 to 2011, we headed up the Australian delegation and also the Bethany Gate delegation, which took in part of Asia Pacific, and basically went to yearly, this was for the Jerusalem House of Prayer for All Nations, and went to yearly conferences and made a presentation, led the prayer tower for that session, led a tour around Israel after the conference, etc.
Wow. So when you prayed for a heart for Jewish-Gentile relations, I mean, you really have a heart. I mean, going back to where it all started in Israel.
Oh, well, you know, the Lord just kept opening doors, and we've just walked through them, and he's given us amazing favour, and I really praise him for that. He really answered that prayer big time.
Wow. So do you think the fact that you are, well, I would say a mixed couple, an Aboriginal and a white Australian, do you think that somehow helps you open doors because of your background? Because you are a reconciled couple, I guess, as the Anglican priest said?
I think it does. And we've hosted Sons of Abraham conference in Sydney in 2015 and in Israel in 2017. So for us to actually host a conference in Israel with Jews and Arabs and work on reconciliation's been quite a big thing, but the Lord has blessed that.
Yeah, sounds like he's using you in several different amazing ways. Let's find out about some more ways that you've been involved in ministry.
Okay, so the other thing is the Lord put on Norman's heart. He's more so the vision carrier, and I'm the one who adds to the vision and puts legs on it, basically. So we're a very good team.
Yeah.
We think alike. We sync together really well.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lord put on his heart initially to have some 24/7 conferences in Australia in capital cities on a yearly basis. We did that for 10 years. And the idea was closing the door to things that weren't of the Lord and opening the door to things that were. So included some spiritual warfare as well. Mm. So we had 4 of those conferences were in Parliament House, Canberra. Others were in capital cities like Sydney and Melbourne, some in regional areas. So it's been an amazing time.
And in addition to all that, you've pastored a church. Norman and yourself pastored a church for over 25 years?
Yes, we've recently celebrated, or last year, 25 years of our ministry. So that is as pastors of the Tabernacle of David in Cairns, because we have a strong focus on worship and prayer, and also of our parachurch ministry, the Centre for International Reconciliation and Peace. And we've worked in a number of nations on that. We've spoken at reconciliation conferences in Zimbabwe, done some healing between the Shona and the Ndebele. We've been to Indian reservations on reconciliation conferences and sharing there. So it's been, and New Zealand as well, with meetings with Maoris. So it's been a wonderful opportunity that the Lord has given us to do his work as he's called us to do.
And so, as if that wasn't enough, in addition to all this ministry, both your church and the parachurch ministry, you've written several books over the years. Please tell us about your books.
Oh, well, yes, I've written over 10 books on my own, and a number of books where I've put a chapter in. And
one of your books, forgive me, I can't remember exactly the title, but something along the lines of White Woman, Black Heart, or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes. So that's a memoir that I wrote in 2018. And basically it's about how I helped the Aboriginal people or First Nations people of Mapoon, north of Weipa, to move back to their land after they had been forced off for mining 11 years earlier in 1963. They were forced off. I helped them back in 74. And their houses were burnt down. The church was burnt down so that people wouldn't return. And so I guess one of the awesome things about that is it's a very well-functioning community. They've gradually rebuilt it, and they have built a church there, and they're virtually in revival at the moment, which is rather exciting. And originally the Moravians had set up that mission at Mapoon, so it did have a Christian basis to start with, but it was wonderful. I mean, to help the people were really grieving about having forcibly moved by police from that community. So to go back and rebuild has been a really big thing. So for me to be part of that was a real privilege.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. So obviously, as we're hearing your story, a major theme is your heart for helping oppressed people and helping different groups that aren't getting along to reconcile. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, it would.
So the Lord's really been tugging your heart. And obviously, being married to Norman, you got to have your eyes open to the plight of Aboriginal people in Australia.
Absolutely. And if I could follow that up, I had so much information that I had to pull it out of that first memoir. And I did a second memoir last year called Secrets and Lies. That was just really to get attention. But what it focused on initially was the Moravians had also set up a mission of Arakoon, which was taken over by the Presbyterians and then the Uniting Church. In 1978, the Bjelke-Petersen government had some issues with the church, wanted to get rid of them out of the community. And basically the people said, no, we want the church to stay. They are working with us towards self-management. And so I was involved in working with the North Queensland Aboriginal Land Council at that time voluntarily to support the community to keep the church there. Mm-hmm. Eventually we did lose that battle, but it was important, I think, at least to know that missionaries tend to have bad press, but, you know, Aboriginal people often really appreciate the role that missionaries have had in their communities as well.
Wow. Well, the Lord has been using you in remarkable ways to bring reconciliation to groups that have been at odds with each other, but you've been working along with Norman to help bring reconciliation. I should add that you are also, besides being a pastor, you're a mediator, a psychologist, and a teacher. And as we've been talking about, an author as well. So you're pretty busy. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you, Eric. Much appreciated, and God bless you.
Well, that was part one of my conversation with Barbara Miller, who's the author of several books, including 3 on the remarkable life of William Cooper. Barbara says that Cooper is the closest Australia has to a Martin Luther King figure, and she'll share his story with us next time. But first, if you would like to learn more about Barbara and her many books, you can go to her website. It's barbara-miller-books.com. Once again, that's barbara-miller-books.com. Also, as we heard today, a major theme of Barbara and her husband Norman's lives has been reconciliation. So, appropriately, their church and ministry's website is reconciliationandpeace.org. Once again, that's reconciliationandpeace.org. Well, until next time when Barbara will share with us William Cooper's story, I'm Eric Scatabo. So long, and God bless.
You've been listening to Real Faith, and if you have any questions or comments, you can send us a message through our website, realfaith.org.au. That's realfaith.org.au.
Real Faith is a production of Vision Christian Media.
This program is a production of Vision Christian Media.
To find out more about us, see vision.org.au.